All right, welcome to the review of question 6 on the AAMC Preview Practice Test. We're all the way back here now. We've done these 5 questions so far. If you haven't seen those videos, please go ahead and do so, as you'll be more familiarized with our framework for approaching questions. And if you haven't done question 6 yet, please go ahead and do that before watching this video so you can really take the time to do the question beforehand and then reflect on your thought processes and then use this video in order to assess your own thought processes and what you did right and what you did wrong, as that's the best way to learn from my experience and get the best results on test day. All right, so scenario 6, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Your professor assigned you to a weekly study group with several classmates. Okay, so we're assigned to a study group. I'm going to note that because our professor assigned us, right? So likely we'll have some group responsibilities, potentially. During your first session, you were having trouble keeping up with the discussion and think you are not as prepared as the other students. Okay, so maybe why we're not doing so well is our preparation. At the end of the study session, you are still confused on the topic, but the rest of the group still seems ready. The rest of the group seems ready to move on to next week's topic. Okay, and that's our main issue, right? It's like, hey, we're confused on the topic after the discussion. All right, so we kind of noted those few things. The group element I think is important, right? Because remember, anytime you're put into a group, particularly when you're assigned to it, and you are in this setting, you might have responsibilities towards your group, of attending the group and definitely treating your group mates with kindness and compassion and working as a team. So, let's just summarize what we know here into a main problem, right? Let's digest it down into one singular problem. And for this one, I'm going to say our main problem is that after our study session, we are still confused on this week's topic, possibly due to our preparation. Okay, and the main thing though is, we're confused on this week's topic, and hopefully we can try to correct that with our responses. All right, so let's jump in to response 1. Ask one of the study group members if they have time to review the material with you. Okay, so, are we addressing, and remember, let's go back to, if we haven't been familiarized with this kind of flowchart yet, it's just, we do a 2-step elimination process to get to our final answer. That's the framework we're really using. And let's take this one on. Let's, for the past few questions, we've used this bottom question right here to make our initial differentiation and cross out and eliminate 2 possible answers. So let's stick to this one. I think this is a very good starting point. Are you taking steps to resolve the main problem? Are you taking steps to resolve the main problem? So in this response, are we taking steps to resolve the main problem? And our main problem, remember, was, hey, we're confused on this week's topic. That's the central problem that we're faced with here. And yeah, this clearly takes steps in order to fix and address the main problem. So I'm going to triage this into an effective or very effective answer. All right, so what have we used in the past to differentiate effective and very effective answers? Are we finding a compromise for the problem? That's not as relevant. Maybe this was more relevant in a question where we had some sort of conflict of responsibilities. How are we impacting relevant stakeholders? Well, when we ask our study group member for, if they have time, we're really being compassionate, right? We're really being very kind to them, not burdening them in any way. We're acting in a very kind manner to not impose on them. So, I think we're doing a good job there. Are you addressing the root cause of the problem? Well, for this one, I definitely, I'm on the fence about, because it seems like we weren't prepared for this discussion because we're not as, we didn't do as well in this discussion because we're not as prepared. So maybe there's an issue with our preparation, and maybe this doesn't take into account fully, fixing that kind of root cause. But this is only one question, right, of all these questions. And these are essentially just tools. And just to go back a little bit, talk a bit more theoretical. These questions are just tools in order to help us with making this differentiation. This is our guiding light, our holy grail for this test. And remember, the difference between a 3 and a 4 is if the response could help but not significantly improve versus will significantly improve the situation. Okay, so let's go back. To what degree are you acting compassionately? Yeah, we're acting really compassionately, prioritizing teamwork. Yeah, we are reaching out to our teammates and asking for help. How proactive? Maybe not too much open but we are taking tangible steps. We're really very clearly taking steps and identifying a specific plan in order to help our problem of being confused on this week's topic. So because we are doing that, because we're taking such actionable steps and we're being really kind to our teammates and not burdening them, we are going to put this as a 4 because this will significantly improve the situation in our understanding of this week's topic. So at least this is a good step in order to get to that goal. This is a good first step and a really good first step. Remember, because we are being very clearly, we're clearly identifying an actionable plan and being kind to everyone. All right. Because of that, it will significantly improve the situation. That's why we can put it into a 4. All right. 6.2. Tell the study group to slow down to accommodate all learning paces in the group. Okay, so, is this fixing the problem of us being confused on this week's topic? Clearly it's not, right? Clearly it's not addressing the problem of us being confused, right? And it says we're at the end of the session, and by telling our group, it's important to pay attention to this verb too, how we're starting. We're telling our group, and in a group setting, we really should be more collaborative. This is quite an aggressive verb to use, and we should pay careful attention to the verbs that are being used. And telling is not always going to mean it's a bad thing, but in this group assignment, when we're the ones that are likely responsible for not keeping up with the discussion because we're not as prepared, combine that with the fact that we're already at the end of the session, and telling our study group to slow down isn't going to help us with the fact that we're confused on this week's topic. Yeah, I'm going to triage this into a very ineffective or an ineffective answer. Okay, so where do we go here? What have we used in the past? Well, to what extent are you recognizing there's an issue, offering a solution, or relinquishing your responsibilities? We're not really offering a solution to the fact that we're confused, right? Are there any overt consequences? Are we disengaging? Are we precluding further discussion? Are we being disrespectful or rude? Yeah, we're definitely being disrespectful or rude. Not really taking ownership of the problem. And I'm going to add one more thing here, because I think this question really does a good job showing that we cannot be selfish. We cannot prioritize our needs over the needs of others. That being disrespectful or rude, and definitely being selfish in this way, it's often going to land squarely into a 1 answer, to a very ineffective answer. So I'm going to cross out 2 and give this a 1, and I'm going to move on. All right, let's move on to question number 3. Response number 3. All right. Asked to be assigned to a different study group that may be more conducive to your learning. Okay, well, it's possible that another group might fit our learning style a bit more, and so it's possible that's a potential solution and could be beneficial to us. However, because we're told that it might we might not have been able to keep up with the discussion because we're not as prepared, moving to another group might also not fix that. Furthermore, it doesn't really address this main problem. And this is the first question that we're using to differentiate. The first question we use to differentiate between in our first differentiation and eliminate two responses, let's go back. Are we addressing the main problem, right? Are we taking steps to resolve the main problem? And this one is not taking steps to resolve the main problem, because how is this going to help us with the fact that we're confused on this week's topic, right? It's a bit tangential. So for that reason, but despite that, it's still a possible solution that maybe could be, helpful, and we're not really disengaging. So I'm going to put this into a 2 or 3. And even though we're not addressing the main problem, you can imagine that this being a, moving to a group that is more conducive to our learning really does help solve, some problem and some, allow us to get more out of the group, right? So because of that, I'm going to move this into a 2 or 3. All right. So between a 2 or 3, how do we differentiate? Are we taking responsibility for solving the problem? How are we offering a solution to the main problem? How are we impacting relevant stakeholders? Okay, so like we've talked about, we're not taking responsibility for solving the problem of us not understanding the material, right? And we're not offering a solution to the main problem. And how are we impacting relevant stakeholders? Well, we're kind of just leaving our study group, right? Remember, we're assigned to the study group as part of our responsibility to attend the group and be a part of it. And because we're kind of giving up that responsibility, because we're not offering a solution to the problem, I'm going to put this as a 2. All right. All right. So let's move on to 6.4. All right, stop attending the study group and study on your own for the rest of the semester. Okay, so I hope, immediately you can kind of tell that this is either going to be a 1 or a 2 response, right? 1, it's really not addressing the problem in any way, right? And furthermore, you're kind of relinquishing your responsibilities for attending the study group. And remember, those are 2 questions that we've used in the past are important to make your initial elimination. So between a 1 or a 2, how are we going to differentiate? And we really, don't have to go too in depth here. We are definitely disengaging from the problem. Where, there's definitely going to be over consequences simply because it's part of our responsibility for going to the group, and not attending that is kind of relinquishing those. And yeah, it's probably not going to help our learning. So I'm going to put this into a 1 for all of those reasons. And I hope as we're going along, we're kind of building an intuition of what a 1 answer kind of looks like. And immediately when you read that, you should be able to tell it's probably not going to be on the effective side of the scale. Okay, so number 5, ask the professor if the material that you are confused about will be included on any upcoming exams. Okay, so let's go back to our initial differentiation. And, I think the second question is a bit more relevant. Are we taking steps to resolve the main problem here? Are we taking steps to resolve the problem that we are still confused about this week's topic, possibly due to our preparation? Yeah, no, we're not, right? We're not taking any steps to kind of remedy our understanding of the material, or taking steps to kind of make sure, we become a better student. We're really just concerned about if this material is going to be on the test. So, if we actually have to go back and study it or not. So for that reason, I'm not going to put this into a 3 or 4. I'm going to put this into a 1 or 2. Okay, so how do we differentiate between 1 or 2? Let's go back. And you can read this over again. And for my, as I read through these questions, one thing I'm recognizing is, we're not really relinquishing our responsibilities. We're not addressing the problem either, right? But we're not really shying away from it like we were on the previous question, where we were just stopping attending the group, right? We're not really shying away. This is kind of a tangential response to the actual question. But I think one other thing we can ask that's going to be potentially, or that's really going to be very useful in order to answer this question is, hey, what's the likelihood of us causing a problem? Now, why is that question relevant? Well, let's go back to, how we differentiate between a 1 and a 2, right? We know a 1 will cause additional problems or make the situation worse. A 2 will not improve the situation or may cause a problem. So if there's not a big, obvious negative consequence of our response, then hey, it actually might be a 2. Now, if there are very clear consequences, then we're gonna move more towards a 1, right? And for this one, for my reading, there's not that many specific consequences that are very immediate after we do this response, of asking our professor. For that reason, I'm gonna move it into ineffective. All right. Let's go on to 6.6 next. All right. Ask your study group if any group member would share their notes on the topic you're struggling with so you can review them on our own. Okay, let's go back to where we always start. Are we addressing the main problem? And very clearly, we are addressing the main problem, right? Because this is a step that's going to allow us to learn this week's topic, which we were confused about. So immediately, I'm going to put this into a 3 or a 4. Okay, how do we differentiate between a 3 and a 4? You can pause the video and kind of read over these questions, but I'm getting a lot of flashbacks to 6.1 that we did, the first question in the scenario where we were very compassionate towards our other group members. We're asking them if they would share their notes. We're being very open, being very respectful to our group members, and we're kind of taking responsibility for solving the problem, right? We're gonna take a very actionable, tangible step that's respectful to our group and gonna allow us to remedy our understanding of this week's material. And for that reason, I can be pretty sure it's gonna significantly improve the situation, leading this to a 4 answer. All right. Oh, this is supposed to say 6.7. 6.7. All right. Prepare a study plan for next week's topic to make sure you keep up with the next discussion. Okay, so are we taking steps to solve this main problem right here, right? Are we taking steps to solve this main problem? Yeah, so, in some ways we are, right? In some ways we are, because this step is going to allow us to better prepare for next week's topic, right? Because part of our reason that we got in this mess in the first place is because our preparation wasn't very good. So we are making sure if we do make a study plan for next week, the same thing won't happen next week, which is a good thing, right? However, one of the main issues is we're confused about this week's topic too, and we're not addressing that at all. And because we're not addressing that, we're kind of somewhere in the middle. And when I have this feeling that we're kind of somewhere in the middle, that this is not like a super effective response, but not a super ineffective response, I go to triaging this into a 2 or a 3. All right, so how do we differentiate between a 2 or 3? And you can kind of read this, right? Are we taking responsibility for solving the problem? Are we offering a solution to the main problem? How are we impacting relevant stakeholders? Now, one thing I'm going to write here that I think is useful, and I think it's even, we wrote it up here in this last question, and I'm going to take it from here because I think this question is also useful in differentiating between an ineffective or an effective response. And why is that? Because remember, an ineffective response will not improve the situation or may cause a problem. An effective response won't cause a problem, but it might help the situation, right? For that reason, this is a very clear line that separates a 2 and a 3. So for this question, let's ask, is this going to cause a problem for us? Is this step going to lead to, a problem being caused for us? For that reason, I don't think so, right? This is not going to cause, doing this thing is not going to cause a problem. It's only going to help us in some way prepare for next week. So I'm going to move this into a 3. All right. And yeah, that's it. That was all the questions we had for scenario 6. Like I always say, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments on anything I can improve on, we can always make another video and answer any questions that you have. Please comment and share, and share this with anyone who you feel like might help. We really hope this is a good resource for people studying for the preview exam. And yeah, I'm gonna end it there. I will see you for the next scenario.